Hello everybody and welcome back to Rollin'-ish. In this video, we're going to be covering the Bard class, specifically what all Bards get. Now we're going to reserve the option at level 3 to choose your Bard college and dive deeper into those college options in a next video. But for now, we're going to focus on what are Bards, what can they do, and what do all Bards get regardless of the subclass that I take at level 3 and onward, just to get a better understanding of like what can I do if I play a bard. So what I'm showing you right now is a screen of the D&D Beyond. I'm looking at my player's handbook. So if you own the player's handbook digitally, you can follow along, or if you are working through your player's handbook, you can follow along in your book as well with the class chapter. They're in alphabetical order, and then Bard, of course, would be where we're talking about. So, as you can see in the picture, Bards can be musicians. And what they're going to do is utilize their knowledge, their voice, songs perhaps, and that is how they wield magic. They use their voices and typically music to fuel and cast their spells. You don't always have to be a musician bard. Like, I've seen bards get played as comedians. I've seen bards get played as inspirational speakers. Maybe they pull quotes from wiser men and use them to inspire the party, and so on. So you don't have to just limit yourself to the musician, but if you're musically inclined, this is probably the class for you. The bards typically feel as though knowledge and the gods have spoken the world into existence. Gods had used their voices and crafted the universe that way through magic. So they're loosely tied to magic, and that's a typical trope that you can play as a bard, as a musician, but a lot of it is spoken, right? If you read through this, bards are going to be experience learners. So that means just because a bard might be set up in the corner of a tavern playing a lute or a flute or some kind of instrument, maybe reciting poetry, maybe rapping, maybe doing stand-up, yes, they're doing that and making coin out of it, but those bards are very observant and they're studying each person in the tavern. The bard is likely going to be the person in the tavern who knows what faction this person belongs to, who gets along, who doesn't get along in the city, because they are the eyes and ears of where you are, because they see it all. Everybody gathers at the local watering hole, and that is where gossip is shared. So if anybody is going to know, it might be the bard. So think about that even as a player, regardless of what class you're playing. Your DM puts you in a situation where you enter a town or village or city and you want to explore the tavern. Yes, you can look around yourself, but if there's a bard, go talk to them, because they might have information that you're looking for. Okay? So creating a bard is going to be pretty simple. Bards can use weapons, but bards can also use spells. And the spells that bards often have are going to be those that are going to enhance themselves or the rest of the party's actions. So just looking at the bard, one of the 6 abilities that we focus on when building a character, and as a reminder, we have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. If you're a bard and you're singing or playing an instrument or using your voice to do any of those things, you're going to want to be charismatic. Does that mean you have to be? No, you can play whatever you want to play. But typically, charisma is what you're going to want to focus on as a bard, because your spells are driven off of your charisma ability score. Next thing you might want to focus on as a bard might be dexterity. Dexterity is just universally good. So depending on the race that you choose, maybe you're a dwarf and you have that bump to constitution. All right, make a beefy, hardy bard who can, inspire others while still maintaining their own health so they can stay on the battlefield and help continue to buff the party. That might be some way you look at it. But looking at the quick build suggestions in your player's handbooks, that's what they do point out, is to focus on your charisma first and then your dexterity. If you want to really buff and really lean hard into the bard aspect when we get into backgrounds, choosing the entertainer will help because it's going to give you some natural enhancements to acrobatics and performance. And performance is the skill check that you would need as a bard to see how well you play the song, how well you recall such a song if you're taking requests, how well you perform the thing. So if you're a bard that stands out on the corner of the street and plays for coins, how well are you playing? Maybe your performance check will help your DM determine how much coin you make that day playing on the corner of the street or in the tavern. Things like that. So your inspirational speeches, whatever it is that you're doing, the entertainer background is going to give you those buffs to performance. It's already going to put a musical instrument in your hands, a costume. You'll be good with a disguise kit because think about it. You're on a stage, you're performing. You want to put on makeup so your eyes are accentuated, or maybe it's your lips that you want to accentuate while you're performing this poetry or the speech so you can get people to buy into what you're saying. Those are the types of equipment you get with the entertainer background. It's always a good one to take if you're willing to play a bard, and that is why the quick build section recommends it. There are going to be some spells that you can choose from, and the player's handbook is going to recommend things like dancing lights, which is going to put lights around your target. It allows you to move them with a bonus action, so you can see. So if you have yourself or someone in your party that maybe does not have dark vision or needs their hands free, like your bard, if you're playing a lute, you need your hands free to cast your spells, you don't want to carry a torch, dancing lights might be the way to go. When you're dungeon diving, things like being able to detect magic or cast a healing word. So bards do have access to healing spells. Now, typically your cleric is going to be the healer of the party, right? But paladins and bards, they also have access to some healing spells, but they should not be considered the main healer of your party. So if you're starting a new campaign and you really want to play a bard, go for it. And if the rest of your party is trying to consider what they want to play and somebody is like, we don't have a healer, I guess I'll have to play the cleric, you could step in and be like, no, I'm a bard, I'll take some healing spells, play what you want to play. Like, not every party has to have a fighter or a cleric, etc. But you get access to those healing spells, which is pretty cool. So in this table, which is found on your book and also here digitally, it's going to go through each level, and it's going to rate your proficiency bonus, and it shows you where you get your natural increases. And remember, if you're not sure what a proficiency bonus is, we do have a video here on our channel that goes over terminology and walks you through a character sheet. So if you're unfamiliar with some of these terms, definitely check that video out. It'll help you. But at first level, all bards are going to get 2 cantrips. These are spells that are technically considered 0 level. You can cast them at will. It doesn't really expend your energy to cast these spells. They're simple spells. You get 2 of them to start with. You get to know 4 first level spells, but you can only prepare so many. You have 2 spell slots. So while you might pick 4 first level spells, okay, I know these ones, right? And you get them ready. You only have 2 slots. You only can cast 2 spells. So having those 4 options is important. Given the situation, you might be pulling for one over the other, right? Maybe it's not a combat spell. Maybe you're in a dangerous situation that is non-combat encounter. You might want to have some kind of other spell like a detect magic or something like that. And all bards are going to get a thing called bardic inspiration. So that just means like your words or your music stir up something in others. And as you do, you use a bonus action on your turn and you choose a creature other than yourself within 60 feet of you. And you get to take a d6 and that doles out Bardic Inspiration. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so if I'm the Bard and I see your character and I'm going to give you Bardic Inspiration on my bonus action, that means for the next 10 minutes, you, because I cast the spell on you, can add a d6 to your ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. Not damage. Ability check, those are those skills that you see on your sheet in alphabetical order. There's like 15 of them, something like that. An attack roll or a saving throw. So let's say you have to make a dexterity saving throw and you roll a 13. But you're pretty sure you're going to need more than that, right? Ooh, 13. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to avoid this issue. Oh, I'm bardically inspired. I can roll my d6. I got a 2. So instead of my 13, it's a 15, DM. What happens? Right? That's what Bardic Inspiration does. You're inspired by the Bard to perform better yourself or maybe be lucky. And that's what that does. It's very, very handy, and it's a big buff to your party. All Bards get Bardic Inspiration at level 1. You can use Bardic Inspiration a number of times that is equal to your Charisma modifier. Okay? So if your Charisma modifier is a +3, you can deal out Bardic Inspiration 3 times before needing to rest to replenish it. And so as your Charisma modifier goes up, the more of that you get. So when you think about things at 4th level, 8th level, 12th, 16th, 19th level, when you have the ability score modifier or choose a feat option, maybe you go for the ability score modifier early on and get that charisma as high as you can get it. Remember, your modifier increases every time one of your ability scores is an even number. So if you're going from 12 to 13, you're still at a +1. But if you're going from a 12 to a 14, you go from a +1 to a +2. So every time you hit an even number, it increases. Keep that in mind as you're leveling up, because if you've got a charisma score of 17, then you're at a +3 modifier. Maybe at level 4 or level 8, level 12, whatever it is, when you have that option, maybe you spend a point in increasing your modifier to go up to that even number to get that modifier up. Because the stronger that modifier, the better you are at casting those spells, especially if we're talking about charisma for a bard, or the better it is for a special feature that would consider your modifier, like this one. Okay, you can use it as many times as equal to your modifier. So if your modifier is a +2, you get 2 Bardic Inspirations. But if it's a +3, you get 3. If it's a +4 or a 5, see where I'm going? So you can use this feature a lot, and it's more of a help to your party the higher your charisma modifier is. So that's why as a bard you want to focus on having as high as a charisma as possible, because yeah, it helps you in your situational stuff, but it's also going to help you help others with that Bardic Inspiration. At 2nd level you get a feature called Jack of all Trades, which means you can have half your proficiency bonus rounded down to any ability check that you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. So again, in the video where we talk about terminology and character sheet walkthrough, I think that's the name of the video, we talk about proficiency bonus. And so if your proficiency bonus is a +3, this says rounded down, right? Because I can use half my proficiency bonus rounded down, right? So if I'm a 3, I can't half that. I can't have 1.5 something. Round it down to 2, half of that is 1. I can use my Jack of all Trades feature 1 time. And that will allow me to add that number to a skill that I'm not already proficient with. So if I'm proficient in performance, I can't add it to that, right? Because I'm already good at performance. This would be something I'm not good at. Maybe it's athletics, right? Because like if you're a musician and you're focusing on charisma, maybe dex, you're not so much focusing on strength. That athletics check that is based on strength, maybe strength is your weakest score, right? Maybe you're like, ooh, I'm going to need to Jack of all Trades my athletics check because I'm not so good with my athletics. That would make sense. That's what that's for. Also at 2nd level, you get something called Song of Rest. So you could use your music or Maybe you're reciting a poem or something to help revitalize your wounded allies during a short rest. So you guys just got out of combat. You're going to take a short rest. People are going to roll hit dice to heal a little bit. And we talk about that again in the terminology and character sheet walkthrough video. We talk about resting and what that means. But maybe you're taking a short rest and you're going to roll some dice to heal yourself. Because you, as the bard, have Song of Rest, anybody who's friendly and can hear your performance, they're going to regain extra hit points at the end of those rests. Each one of those creatures is going to get an extra D6. So think about it almost like you think about Bardic Inspiration, where you can help somebody in situations. This is kind of it for resting. So at rest, you're going to play some soothing music. Maybe you're going to recite a poem to calm everybody down while they heal. If they're within earshot while they're resting and rolling hit dice, they each get a D6 that they can roll to get more health. Okay? Now, you're not going to exceed your max, but it could help somebody fill up without needing to long rest. Now, this extra D6 turns into a D8 at 9th level. It turns into a D10 at 13th level. And it turns into a D12 at 17th level. So as you become a stronger bard, your songs become more powerful as they help heal your party. At 3rd level, this is where you get to choose your bard college. This is where your subclass comes in. What kind of bard are you? And there are the options in your player's handbook are called the College of Lore and the College of Valor. And these two subclasses are going to unlock certain features based on the choice that you make. You can't take both. You got to take one. And based on that one choice, you get extra stuff starting at 3rd level. We're not going to dive into those two colleges of right here in this video. Our next video, we're going to just solely spend talking about what do you get in College of Lore, what do you get in College of Valor. We'll talk about those there. In the future, we're going to incorporate other materials. Maybe Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, maybe the Critical Role books. We're going to take some of the other supplemental books and provide you some of those options later on. For now, we're just sticking to what's in our player's handbook. If I only have a player's handbook, what can I do? What kind of character can I make? Because you can make really great characters. We'll dive into that in the next video, but this at 3rd level, you're going to be able to choose which college or subclass, and it grants you features at 3rd level, at 6th level, and 14th level. So based on the option you choose, at 3rd, 6th, and 14th, you get those subclass features. In addition to the Bard College that you need to choose at 3rd level, you get expertise at 3rd level. This is going to work similarly than it works with the Rogue, where you have proficiency, something that you're good at. So it's an extra bonus you get to your die roll when you're proficient. But starting at 3rd level, you could take 2 of the skills that you're proficient with and become an expert at them. That means whatever the proficiency bonus is, you double it. So at 3rd level, if your proficiency bonus is a +2 for performance, and maybe your charisma modifier is a +3, that would mean charisma modifier, performance is charisma-based skill. You start with the +3 that you have, maybe if that's your modifier. If you're proficient, it's a +2 at 3rd level. So now it's a +5 to your die roll for performance. What this is saying is, if you're an expert in that skill, you get to double the proficiency bonus. So if you have a +2, it becomes a +4, right? So if your base charisma was a 16 and you get a +3 to your modifier and you're proficient in performance and you're making a performance check, you get to add your proficiency bonus, right? Makes it a +5, but if I'm an expert, I get to double that. That's a +7 on my performance at 3rd level. Odds are I'm going to be successful in that check. So choosing your expertise wisely is going to be crucial here. At 10th level, you'll get to choose 2 new skills that you become an expert at. So it makes sense, right? As you level up, you become more familiar with certain skills, you get better at those skills, you grow in those skills, you become an expert. pretty cool. Expertise is going to really help you. So if you're thinking about making a build and you're focusing on charisma as a bard, you got to think about the checks that are required. The skills for charisma are performance, persuasion, intimidation, deception. Those are all vocal. Those are all charisma-based skills. So maybe you get proficiency in some of those and then choose to make yourself an expert. So if you want to be an expert liar, lean into the deception, right? Maybe you're very silver-tongued and you want to persuade somebody. Talk down that price in the shop. Focus on persuasion. Make yourself an expert, right? You're playing your musical instrument using your voice to fuel your magic, and that performance check is going to come in handy. Make yourself an expert. You could do that. Expertise is really great. We talked about this a little bit already. Ability score improvement. That means you get to pick one of your 6 abilities. Remember, those are strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. One of those 6, you can add a permanent +2. So increase your skill by +2. Or you could take 2 of these 6 and give 2 of them a +1. Okay? Keep an eye on the score that you have, because as each score becomes an even number, the modifier increases. The lower that score is, under 10, every odd number, you get a minus. So depending on what your skill looks like, you might want to increase those ones. But at 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th, you get to do your ability score improvement as you grow. Some campaigns, ask your DM, some campaigns will allow you to, instead of taking the score, take a feat. And a feat is a special move, a special ability that you have. So at this juncture in time, 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th, you could take an ability scoring improvement, or you could take a feat. And so as a bard, you want to focus in on that charisma. At 5th level, you get a feature called Font of Inspiration. You get all your expended uses of bardic inspiration when you finish a short or long rest. So typically, to refuel a feature that is consumable, right, you only have so many of them. Like bardic inspiration, you only have so many. Typically, it takes a long rest to replenish them. This is saying at 5th level, your Font of Inspiration, you get them back at short rests instead of long rests. I mean, you can still do them every time you rest, but that is the point. Whether it's a short or long rest, you get your bardic inspiration back. Super helpful to your party, especially if you're going to buff them and try and increase their skills or their attack roll or their saving throw. Having a bard in your party they're the saving grace. They might not do the big damage output, but they're the ones keeping you alive. At 6th level, you get an ability called Counter Charm. And this means your musical notes or your words of power disrupt mind influencing effects. So as an action, you could start a performance that lasts until the end of your next turn. So your turn, you are playing your music, you're reciting poetry, you're rapping, you're doing stand-up, however your bard does their thing. You're doing that. That is your turn. And while you're doing that, you and any friendly creatures within 30 feet of you, they're going to get advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed. Okay? They have to be able to hear you. So if that player is deafened, they can't hear you, right? So maybe they took thunder damage and it also deafened them. Now they can't hear you. They're not going to get this benefit. So some creatures, dragons specifically, have a feature called Frightful Presence, where just being near them, you could be afraid. Like just being close to them, you have to make a saving throw to not be scared. And if you're frightened, it usually means you're going to turn tail and run away. You're going to have disadvantage on attacks if that thing that you're afraid of is in your line of sight, because you are just distracted by your fear. This, you as the bard playing through or performing through your turn, is going to prevent your teammates from potentially being charmed or frightened. So that's a cool thing. They'll get advantage on that saving throw. See what I mean? The bard is really helping everybody else. They're the real helpers. So if you're not sure, like, oh, I don't know, I'm new to D&D, I don't know, like, I don't know about combat strategy. What do I know about that? I'm too scared of magic. Magic seems very confusing to me. Play a bard. You could do a little bit of both. It's a little bit of magic. It introduces you to using it, and you could be a big helper to your party by not being the violent one. Bard's a great class to play for something like that. And then, of course, if you get knocked out or killed, your song is over. They can't hear you play it. They lose that feature. At 10th level, you get a feature called Magical Secrets. So you've been able to plunder magical knowledge from a wide spectrum of disciplines. So choose 2 spells from any class, including Bard. It must be of a level that you can cast, as shown on the Bard table, right? So let's say, what is that? We get this at, what, 10th level? All right, so let's say we're level 10. Let's take a look at our chart. We can cast up to 5th level spells, right? Because we've got 2 5th level spell slots, 3 4s, 3 3s, 3 2s, and 4 1s. We can go up to 5th level spells. What this is saying, what Magical Secrets is saying is, when you get to level 10 and you get to pick new spells, it doesn't have to be from the Bard list. You could grab 2 from the Wizard list. You could grab 2 from the Cleric list, the Paladin list, the Warlock or Sorcerer list. The spells are broken down by class in the back of your player's handbook. At level 10, it's like, hey, pick 2 from any one, okay? You get them. You're learning so much, and you're being influenced by magic in such a way that you've unlocked the secrets of some of the other classes and what they can do. Whether it be divine magic, arcane knowledge that was studied by the wizard that you're taking it from. You get that. Very, very useful, because now if you're like, all right, I'm a good helper. Now that I understand magic and I'm level 10, I should be pretty powerful. I want to like blow something up. Great. Go to the wizard table and grab Fireball or Wall of Fire, which is a 5th level spell. Maybe you grab something like that, and now your bard can really do some damage on top of being the good helper. Just in case you need it, right? We are at 20th level, okay? At 20th level, you get Superior Inspiration. That means when you roll initiative and have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, right? You've dealt out as much inspiration as you can in this session, you're out. And now you've got an encounter, and you're like, oh man, I'm out of Bardic Inspiration, and now I got to roll initiative to fight this thing. When you're out and you're 20th level, as soon as you roll initiative, you get at least 1 use of Bardic Inspiration back. Just in case, because you're a level 20, you're super powerful, and magic is trying to help you in that way. Okay? That's what all bards get. We're going to jump into the colleges of lore and valor in our next video, but that is essentially what all bards get, regardless of the college they choose. Now, once you choose a college at 3rd level, you get additional things, and we're going to cover that in the next video, like I mentioned. But if you're wondering about what kind of spells you can do, take a look at the bard section of spells. Just know that the highest level of spell that you're going to be able to cast as a bard will be 9th level spells, and you'll get access to 9th level spells at 17th level. So you've got some spell slots. You don't really have as many spell slots as like a wizard would, but you've got enough. You got enough to do some buffing, do some help, do some damage. That is also why it might be good to wield a weapon. And if you're going to wield a weapon as like your just in case, your melee range attacks, that is why the book is telling you like, hey, focus on charisma first so you could be powerful on spellcasting, but maybe you take dexterity second, right? Because you'll have access to like a rapier or short sword, which is a dexterity based weapon. That is why it's suggesting that. Quick build is just giving you suggestions. You don't have to abide by it. Do what you will. I'm excited for you to play Bard. It is very, very fun. I like it. Let me know how you feel about it. Outside of the features, your hit die when you short rest is going to be a D8. Pretty standard for health. You can roll as many of these equal to your level number. So if you're 5th level, you can roll up to 5 of these in a short rest and heal up to your max. You'll be able to wear light armor. There's nothing crazy, just leathers, right? You'll be able to have access to simple weapons like daggers and sickles, hand crossbows, a long sword, a rapier, short swords. So you'll have some weaponry to deal with when you want to save your spells for something else, right? You get to pick 3 musical instruments of your choice to be proficient with. So what are you playing? You're going to play a flute today? Maybe it's a guitar tomorrow? What are you playing? Your dexterity saving throws that you're going to be good at are dex and charisma. And skills, you get proficiency in any 3 that you want. I would suggest, and there's going to be comments, I'm sure. I would suggest performance, maybe deception, maybe persuasion. I want to be a good talker. Maybe you're playing like a half-orc bard. All right, maybe I take persuasion out of it and I put intimidation in because I'm scary looking, right? Think about that. I would lean into the charisma-based ones, but that's me. Equipment-wise, you start with a rapier, which is like that long, pointy pirate-style sword, musketeer-style sword, a long sword, or any simple weapon like a dagger. Long sword might be your best bet because you could swing it with one hand for a D8 of damage, or swing it with 2 hands for a D10 of damage. A diplomat's pack, that's going to have things like maps and scrolls, fine clothes like your dress-up clothes for when you're performing. Oil, sheets of paper, perfume, sealing wax, soap. You're very into yourself being clean and fancy, and maybe that's what you do. Or you take an entertainer's pack. That's going to have costumes, candles, rations, a disguise kit. So if you want to make up and look like Gene Simmons from Kiss, you can do that. You get a lute or any other musical instrument. So remember, you get 3 proficiencies, right? You get to pick a lute or any other musical instrument. Now you can grab more. You can buy more as you go because you'll have proficiency in 3, but you get to start with 1. And you're going to grab leather armor and a dagger. Okay? That's what all bards get. I'm excited for you to play it. Come right back here and we'll talk about the Colleges of Lore and Colleges of Valor options and what you get when you choose them at level 3. And until then, we'll see you at the table.